Hey everybody, it's Jane from Jane Stitches, and today I'm going to show you how to make these little covered Altoids tins, which I had a blast. This was a challenge for me. I wanted to make these so that almost everything was covered, right? So we've got the bottoms covered, the edges, the inside of the lid, the sides, and the bottom. And a bonus, the top is a pincushion. So there you go. But they're really meant to be little traveling kits. Oh, and there goes my fire. It's freezing today in Connecticut, so I've got a little fire going. But anyway, stay tuned, watch the tutorial. As you're watching, let me know if you have any questions about anything. As always, I will put links in the description for what I used. And also, quickly, this I made a while back. It's not my pattern. I'll put a link to it. But it's a little portable sewing kit bag. And she had 2 Altoid tins in it, so it's made to fit those. So if you want to do the whole thing, you can make this also. But there it is. Watch, enjoy, and happy stitching. Okay, so what you're going to need, very first thing you're going to need, is a clean Altoids tin. I washed mine with soap and water, let it dry completely, and you're good to go. Then my next step was to make a cardboard template. So I put my Altoids tin down on some cardboard. I think this is from cereal, and I cut it out. All right, you're gonna make, how many do we need? Let's see, 1, 2, you're gonna need at least 2 of them. So start with 2. Then what we're going to do is we're gonna start by gluing some batting to the top of our Altoids tin. So I took my template, put it on some cotton batting, drew around it, and then I kind of cut around a very wonky 1/4 of an inch around the sides of it. And let me grab my glue. I'm using this E6000 because I have it, and it seems to work pretty well. It stinks. I'm gonna warn you guys. All right, and I'm working on a piece of paper. Newspaper would be great. You don't want to mess up your cutting board, your cutting mat, or anything actually. So I'm just gonna take my E6000, if I can open it. Oh my God, this is why I think I glued the top. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to take my E6000 and I'm just going to put some down. Like this, and around the side. And I'm going to do just the tiniest bit along the edge, like a bead. All right, put my cap on, and then I'm just going to take this batting and I'm going to eyeball it as best as I can, put that down, and make sure I'm able to kind of bend it around the edges. All right. Now I've got a little bit extra back here, so I'm going to trim that. And I should not use my fabric scissors because there's glue and I don't want to wreck them. So I'm just going to come along and cut that off. And what I'm aiming for here is about 1/8 of an inch of the lid, right, before you get to that rolled edge, needs to be exposed. So I'm going to trim away some more. Okay. So it says to let this dry for 24 hours. And these areas that it's kind of popping a little bit, just add a touch. And you can use a toothpick for this if you want. You could put like a blob of glue down, put your toothpick in. I'm just going to put just a little bit, just up along the top edge like that. And then press that down. All right, and then you're going to go and let this dry for 24 hours. I would watch the entire tutorial so that way you could get everything you need to get glued or pre-done now. So then when you come back the next day, you can work on more than if you did one thing, let it dry, do another thing, let it dry another day. All right, so I'll be back with the next thing that you could do while you're gluing is take a piece of batting that you cut to your template size. This is going to be for the inside bottom, and glue that with some E6000 or glue that you like to that piece of cardboard. Now I did this yesterday, so it's all ready to go. So to make the bottom part of it, you take a piece of fabric on the other side. So I know where I'm, because we're going to be doing a little bit of sewing. Just take your piece and go around. This is a friction heat erasable. Oh, that wasn't so great. Pen. Okay, there we go. Then take a needle and thread. And I'm going about 1/4 of an inch away from that edge. That's why I drew it out. And I'm just kind of doing a big gathering stitch. All right, so I went all the way around and I'm putting my little batting covered cardboard to the wrong side because I want this to be the side that shows the right side. And I just pull all the way around. And you kind of like need to finesse this a little bit. So once you get it pretty tight, you know, it needs to fit. It's like a little tiny piece of upholstery. Just make a knot. And we're going to get scissors. And then you have the bottom inside, but you need to kind of make these nice and smooth so you don't actually see the gathers, like that one right there. So I just kind of push it out. And then what I do, you can use the glue that you're using, or you can use like a glue pen. So I just took my glue pen and went around. And the reason I do this is when you put it into the bottom of the tin, you don't want to have any little bits of fabric coming out around the edge. You want it all to fit nicely. So go around and keep checking. See how it creates just a really nice smooth piece. And I even take a little bit of glue and put the thread in, because when you're fitting it down to the bottom, you don't want any of that popping out. All right, that looks good. But take your time with these steps so that you get it just like you want it. Okay, so for the inside lid cover, we want a piece of cardboard with no batting glue to it. And I did the same thing I did with the bottom. Got a piece of very thin quilting cotton. Make sure it's thin because we want this to close. And I traced it, went around same way I did before. Now for this, I want it to be a little bit away from the edge, right? So I'm going to trim this a little bit. So if I can get it out of here. So just give it a little trim. As neatly as you can, just follow around. I always admire those people who do that decorative paper cutting, so intricate. Oh, my struggle with just cardboard and Fiskars. All right, so it leaves a little bit of an edge around there just so it closes. So then you're gonna take your piece of cardboard. Now, if you're using a light piece of fabric, meaning the design is light and you don't want dark cardboard showing through, try using something light, a piece of white cardboard. You know, that's something you want to think about. All right, so I'm just going to take this and again, fit it in there and gather. Okay, so same thing. I'm gonna knot it off and I'm going to do a little bit of the glue just like I did before with this one, and then we'll be gluing those in. All right, so let's start by gluing the bottom. So here's my bottom piece, and if you want to test it, just put like a piece of string across, and you can kind of bend it to go in, and you go, okay, it fits. Better to find out now, right? And you see how I pulled a string to pull this out. Grabbing this stinky glue down my piece of paper. And I'm just putting a nice amount on. This is really interesting glue. That's all I can say. Oh, it stinks. But I use it for my pincushions that I make when I need to glue them into a ceramic or glass container. All right, so now I'm just gonna push this down. See, I'm just kind of flexing a little bit. And I really want to press all the way around. Look at how nice and neat and tidy that is. I just love it. All right, so we make sure we get good contact. And then before I go to my top, because I want to get as much done as I can before I need to kind of let it dry, I've got some ribbon here, and this is beautiful Studio Carta ribbon that I love. I used to sell in my shop, and it's the alphabet. And what I'm going to do is go along, and you see how I'm using the rolled edge, the upper rolled edge, right? You see it right there as my guide. And I'm going to put this all the way around like this. All right, and I can cut it a little bit shorter. And then we grab our glue. And don't get any glue on these hinges, or you won't be opening and closing this. So leave those naked and just kind of go around. Oh, I got a blob, of course, right on the hinge. I suppose you could use hot glue with this to do all of this, but I will absolutely burn my fingers. I just know. I know me. So hot glue would work for sure. I just make sure I remove a little bit of that glue that's around the hinge. Okay. And then make sure if you're using a ribbon like mine that has an upside and a downside, that you make sure you're gluing it the right way. And then I just put it in and slide it to that little rolled lip, big rolled edge, and really press into the corners, because you don't want, if you leave any gap, it's not going to fit right. You'll have like little air pockets there. So again, really into that corner. And look what I did. I made it too short. Ah! And that's because I'm really pressing it in. But I have a solution. Push it really into those corners before I do anything else. And then I'll just take this little piece and cover that up. I'm going to cut both ends at like an angle. And then put some glue. And cover up my mistake. No one will ever know. Woof. My God, this stinks. It's like I need a fan. But look at how cool that is. I just love that. And you can't even tell I patched that. So beautiful, okay? Now, if you, you have an area where like this is your time to adjust. Mine was kind of, my ribbon was kind of popping up over that lip. We don't want anything to interfere with that. This is your open time, meaning the glue is still workable. All right. So really press that in all the way around. I think there's an art called cartonnage. Is that the right word? Tell me if I'm wrong. Where you make cardboard boxes covered in fabric, and it's really beautiful. Now I have a little bit of a tail there, so I'm going to push that back. I saw a little bit of a point I didn't like. All right, now we can also glue our top part. So I'm going to do the same thing. Actually, I think what I'm going to do this time is glue this piece. Now, when you're preparing this piece, if you find that you have tons of bulk in these corners, you could just take your scissors and cut that away. Because we want this as smooth as possible, but don't cut through your stitches. So you could just go around, cut that away, and that And there I went through my stitch, but I'm not going to panic. I'm going to grab my glue pencil or pen and get in there real fast and glue that down. So this is a case of do as I say, not as I do. All right, there. Now I have to quickly glue it. So take your either Stinky E6000 or whatever this is called, or your glue gun. I really want it around the edge. Then take this, put it in, and kind of move it around. So you see how I have a little bit of a space around the edge, and press down so that makes good contact. And that is actually the inside is completely finished. Now if a little glue squeezes out, you could see a bead down there just along the edge. Don't worry about it. It will dry and it will become like invisible. Now, this really does have to dry. So you want to leave it open. You don't want to close this because then if you have a little bead of glue, you'll glue it closed. So what I would do to dry this is take something that is the same thickness as this so that you put it down. Oh, of course I don't have anything. Let's get a little notebook over here. There we go, that's perfect. So that way it's supported. You could really press this down, and if you need to, you can get something that's weighted and put it down in there to hold it down if it's popping up a little bit like mine is. So I'm going to do that. You could get like, I don't know, some stones, just something heavy that will just hold this down while it dries. Just make sure it doesn't make contact with the glue because you don't want to glue to that. All right, I'm going to let mine dry and then I'll meet you back. So we have our inside done. Look at how pretty that is. Now for the outside. This to me is, this top lid is the most fiddly part, but it's totally doable. I did it, right? I've got some 3/8 inch cotton tape here, woven tape, or ribbon. And what we're going to be doing is gluing it same way we did with the inside. We want to avoid that little rolled lip right there. So that's our guide. We don't want to go over that. And we're going to be applying glue, gluing this down, applying glue, gluing it down, going all the way around. So it's really a matter of just taking your time. So I'm going to try with my industrial strength adhesive, putting a bunch down and then dipping in my toothpick. We'll see how that works. So this is why we left a space here. So I'm going to take some of this up. I want to start at the back where the hinges are. And again, we want to avoid those hinges at all costs. So I'm just going to come along, put some down there. Wipe away. And then we just put this down. And you can go right over the hinge. You just don't want to glue it to the hinge. All right. I'm actually going to put a little bit right there to hold that down because it's really bothering me. But we only want it along the bottom, and you'll see why. Really have to press that in. All right, so I'm not going to make you watch me, but I'm going to go all the way around, and when I get to the end, I'll show you how I Okay, so I'm at the end here. I went all the way around. I did end up just using the tip because I'm running out of patience with this glue. And I'm just going to overlap, put a little bit down. Oh, to cover this up. Oof. And then just press that down. And again, you got to go around and push this so that it's not past that little lip there. So that's what I'm doing now. And if you want, if you feel like your twill tape, we'll call it, is not staying down, you can grab, you know, a piece of string. Oh my God, don't glue fabric down. And tie it like this to hold it closed while it dries. And I'm not sure if I'm going to do that, but that's definitely an option. I might, while it's just setting up, I find that just going around, pressing in, because it's getting more and more tacky as it dries, works well. All right, so now this has to dry. So we've got all of this glue stuff. We still have to finish the bottom, the sides, and the top, but we're getting there. Okay, here's one of the most important parts of this whole process. When you're making the top piece that's going to go over the top, it needs to be on the bias like this. So I have a piece of linen here. I'm sure any cotton or wool would be really beautiful as long as it's thin enough. You might want to experiment a little bit. But this is how we're going to, here's my little prototype, put it over the edges, right? And I picked these so you could see through that linen. So I picked them for a reason. So anyway, you're going to take your template, your original one that you're doing all the cutting, and place it on the bias. Trace around it. And then because I'm going to do a little embroidery, I found the middle. Any embroidery really needs to be contained towards the center of this piece because it kind of gets pulled around, and we don't want to have you embroidering something beautiful up to the edge only to have it get covered up. So find the middle. Here's your piece. When you cut this out, okay, I'm going to do my embroidery and I'll be back for that. You're going to cut it out about 1/2 inch all the way around. Even more if you want. So we have our nice safe zone. Okay, so I am going to go. I'm going to put this in a little hoop, put on my embroidery. You could do some applique. You could even take, like here's the ribbon we're going to be using on the side. You could take that and just tack down or applique down a piece going across like that. Don't do it on the bias because the ribbon isn't biased and it won't stretch around. But I think a piece like that would be beautiful. A piece of lace would be gorgeous. I'm looking around. Really, anything you want at all. Some buttons. I'm going to be slipping this in and out of my, showed you guys this a while ago, my little travel sewing kit. Two of these go next to each other right here. So I want to be able to slip it in and out quickly. So I'm not going to do anything too ornate. All right, I'm going to go get that done and then I'll meet you back here. Okay, I have my little embroidery design all done. I just did a really quick sketch of 2 hearts and then did a back stitch, some irregular running stitches, some little French hearts. Do whatever you like. You know, it's meant to be fun. You could do your initials, anything, or just leave it be. This also is a pincushion if you think about it. Here's my little prototype. Right? And this is a pincushion. So it's really a great little design. And I left all my black marks. That'll all go in a little bit. So what we have to do, because here we are, I put that twill tape, which by the way was just, I keep everything, you guys, but it was from the Devonstone collection, this fabric collection, wrapped around the fabric. So I just turned it over and used it for this. It was perfect. Take 2 pieces of batting that you used your original template to cut, or more depending on how thick your cotton batting is. But I put those on. Let's get a little bit closer. All right, and then take your bias cut embroidery design, your top, and place that, just test it to make sure it's lined up pretty well. And then I'm going to grab a bunch of my applique pins and I'm going to start pinning this down. Now, when you cut this out, leave a generous amount. You could always cut it later. This has got to be 3/4 of an inch. You could even go further. We want it to get to the bottom of our cotton tape. All right, so you're just going to take it and start pulling and pinning. So you do one side and then immediately do the opposite side. And you can see why I cut this on the bias. Now you might have to adjust if your design starts to go off a little bit, like this side is longer than this side. So let's see if I could cheat and get this a little bit further on this side. All right, and then we're going to do the corners. Do one corner, go to the diagonally opposite corner. And you can also see why we only glued this at the bottom. So one corner. And then diagonally opposite. Can you hear that wind? My house howls. I love it. So you see what I'm doing here? I'm just going to keep going back and forth until this is completely pinned. Always turning it to the opposite side. Try not to pin yourself like I just did. Right, so I'm gonna put a few more in, see if I like it. I might end up redoing this off camera because this side's a little bit longer than this side. But that's why we're pinning it, making sure it's perfect. And when I'm done with that, I'll meet you back here for the next step. I found the perfect color thread for this linen. And this is this is obviously vintage, but it's strong, so I'm using it. So I'm using a strong needle. Don't use anything too long. And I'm going to do a really nice, strong knot. So you take your knotted needle and go up underneath the linen. Or whatever fabric you're using. And hold down and just start sewing. Now you see me, I'm taking big stitches. Get this in a little bit closer. So I'm going through that twill tape that we have underneath. I'm just going to go all the way around. And we're going to cover this with some lace around the edge, but it's best to have a thread that really matches. Ugh, and you know me, I forgot to put my thread through some beeswax, as usual. And that's it. So I'm just going to go all the way around, always catching. And as you're doing this, if it feels like it's not secure enough, go around a second time. This goes pretty quick when you're not doing it on camera, but I'm going to go all the way around, and then I'm going to overlap where I started, and I'll show you how I ended in the next part of this. All right, I'm at the end, so I'm just going to make a knot. Look, I left not a lot of thread. I think I'm one of those stitchers that likes to live on the edge. All right. And I don't have my... There we are. Let's just trim this off. The next thing you want to do is, actually, I think I'm going to get rid of the black lines so we can see what this looks like. So I have my iron heated up, and I'm just going to touch and you see the friction lines disappear. This is not the best linen. It was dyed, it isn't thread dyed, meaning it was dyed after, and you could see the dye didn't permeate it all the way, so there's a little bit of white in there. So, but this is the perfect project for it. Okay, so there's that. Next thing I want to do is trim away the excess. So right along that little roll, right along that, all the way around. Right, so that it comes down to that little rolled lip of the cover. And then the next step is just to cover up our stitches around here, okay? And to kind of hold, not kind of, but to hold this all down. So I always grab, you know, get your box of lace and trims and audition them, you know, which one do you like? This one I used, I have so much antique lace that everywhere I go I buy it if I see it. This is really old, it's German. And then it just doesn't quite nail it. I found this ribbon. It's actually a cotton tape. It's really a nice weight. And I liked this because I'm gonna finish the bottom the same way I did here with this tape. So I'm like, okay, I'll do the stripes. So when you do this, again, you wanna start at the back and you can cut this at an angle. And you're just going to sew this all the way around. Right to that lip, right there. So we'll go all the way around like this, right to that lip, and I did 2 rows of stitching, top and bottom, and then overlap the back. So I'm going to do the same thing here. And that's how it's going to look. So I'll meet you back here after I do that. I'm just going to use a matching thread, so a natural color thread to go with this. I wanted to show you how I'm actually sewing this ribbon. Where did my needle go? So I found, and I forgot this, so that's why I'm coming back. This is how I did it. I put my needle, put my knotted needle underneath, pulled it through, and took a little stitch at the top, then came down, took a little stitch at the bottom, make sure I'm on camera, hold your ribbon or lace, and you can use, see me coming up, you can use some of your glue pen if you want to hold this all. I'm just using my fingers, but I just went back and forth like this. Don't pull it too tight or you're gonna pucker And I'm going through as many layers as I can down. And if you find at any time that you're doing this and your needle is having a hard time getting through, grab your thimble and push it through with your thimble. All right, but that's how I'm doing this. So I'm going to keep going and I'll meet you back here when I get to the end. And I have my piece underneath. I'm just going to overlap. And this is where if you have like that fray check glue, which I don't use, I think this would be, it would come in handy here. But I'm going to do another cut on the diagonal like that. Oop. Crack my coffee cup. And just trying to see what thread is under there. Tuck everything in nicely. And then just so keep on going. This is a little bit fiddly, but not that bad. Now I just know that that is going to unravel. So doing this kind of on the fly, but I can come up, maybe whip stitch around it to hold that off a little bit. I could have folded it over, but I think it would have been so bulky. Anyway, I'm going to go over this one more time. And just come out at the bottom and knot. I'm actually going to come down, do a little going into the ribbon, and do one knot this way. And then just come up and out. And snip. All right, so there is, I hope I wasn't off camera that whole time. There is our top all finished. So for the bottom, I have this ribbon that I love, love, love. I used it on this one. It's the perfect depth or height, width. I will put that in the description, what it is. And I'm going to have my husband do this because off camera, he won't do it on camera because I hate the smell of this glue. And I'm sure there are other options to E6000, but this is what I have for now, and this is what I'm going to use. Put your favorite industrial strength adhesives in the comments below. This one just does not agree with me, but I'm going to show you how to do it. You take your ribbon and start at the back. You're going to put a bunch of glue. Do not get it near this little edge. Really just be careful of that. Kind of blob it down at the bottom, going around. And then line up the bottom. You might see it overlapping here, but remember there's no glue. So just kind of go all the way around, putting more glue on, pressing it down into the glue all the way around. And then when you get to the end, cut it at an angle, put some glue underneath and overlap. And then what I did to hold this in place while it dried is I took a piece of, this is like an old shoelace, and I tied it around. After I tied it around, I checked my ribbon one more time, making sure it's all lined up. You want to do that while you still have open time, meaning that that glue is still workable. And you want to make sure, again, while it's tied, that it's in the right position while it dries, and then that has to dry for 24 hours. All right, this is almost dry. I couldn't wait, but you could see he glued this all the way around. I have a little angled cut there, and just make sure you avoid these. You want your little box to be able to close. The very last thing you have to do, which is, as far as I'm concerned, the easiest, is take your piece of felt that you used your template with and glue it to the bottom. Spread out your, I'm going to have my husband do it, and I'll be back here to show this off to you with final thoughts. But spread out your glue, you know, about, I'd say, 1/4 of an inch away, because then you're going to press it out. And if there are any little areas that aren't glued, you can grab a toothpick and dip it in a little glue and then pull this up and dab it on. So I will meet you back here after that's done, and we'll take a final look. Here they are. I just love these. This was definitely one of my favorite projects of the year. But look at that. Isn't that sweet? You can absolutely put in a small spool of thread, little travel scissors, you know, little tools, right, in each of these. You could also make a little needle book. Just take your template, right? You can fold it in half if you want, put some stitches down one side, and have that be part of it. Anything you want that could fit, obviously, in here. But I just love it. I love that I finally found a project for this alphabet ribbon, which I love. I love everything by Studio Carta. Everything she does is just really beautiful. So that's it, you guys. Any questions that always ask, let me know if you make these. Oh, I want to show it to you in what started the whole thing, and I'll put the link for this. It's not my pattern or idea, but it's this little travel, I guess, pouch we can call it, right? Covered in thread right now. But she had it with, you see, if you open this up, there's a pocket here, and then there's this pocket with the accordion sides. And she had 2 Altoids tins like this. Look at how perfectly they fit. It's like she made it for those. And I'm being sarcastic. It's like she did, and I just love it. So I'll put the link for this. And they fit into this little travel pouch. So you could put your English paper piecing in here if you want, whatever. And these are also great as, wait till you see this, a miniature, because I'm insane, hexie project. So these are my little tiny hexie pieces, hexagons, but this would be perfect. I could throw this in my bag, and there they all are, right? I could even put some separators in here if I wanted to. The possibilities go on and on and on. But these were meant to fit into this. So there you go. So make them both a gift for yourself, whatever. You're just going to love them. And make them pretty. I did put beads on the top. I know that they can get caught and stuff, but I couldn't resist. I have some going around here, but I just had to. I, of course, have more Altoid tins, so I'm going to make some more of these and try something different. But give it a shot. Have fun with it. Take your time. It could be a little fiddly, but it all works out. If I could do it, you can do it. There's absolutely no reason. Anyway, everybody, happy stitching, and I will see you soon.